It started on a cold December night when I booked a room in an old Victorian inn, far from the busy streets of town. The caretaker was an odd man, his skin pallid, his eyes sunken, but his demeanor polite enough. As he handed me the key to room 13, his fingers lingered on the tarnished brass for a moment too long. "Don't use the wardrobe," he said. His tone was almost pleading. "It's old." I laughed nervously, thinking this was some local superstition or attempt to spook the guest. The room itself was quaint, though undeniably dated. The walls were papered in faded florals, and a four-poster bed stood in the center, surrounded by mismatched furniture. But the wardrobe dominated the space. Its dark wood gleamed even in the dim light of the single bulb hanging from the ceiling. The engraved vines and roses on its double doors were exquisite, but something about them felt alive, like they were twisting when I wasn't looking. Shrugging off the unease, I tossed my coat into the wardrobe, shut the doors, and settled in for the night. The first disturbance was subtle. Around midnight, I awoke to a faint creak. Still groggy, I rolled over, thinking it was the floorboards expanding in the cold. Then I saw the wardrobe. Its doors were slightly ajar, though I distinctly remembered shutting them tight. I walked over, half asleep, and closed them again. This time, I pushed firmly until I heard the latch click. Minutes after I returned to bed, the creak came again, louder this time. My heart pounded as I turned to look. The wardrobe doors were open wider now, revealing a sliver of shadow within. I stared at it for what felt like hours, unable to move, until a thought chilled me. Something inside was breathing. I could hear it. A faint, rhythmic sound that didn't belong to me. I wanted to believe it was my imagination, but then the breathing stopped abruptly, replaced by a single tap. I forced myself out of bed, my legs trembling as I approached the wardrobe. The air around it felt colder. With one shaky hand, I grabbed the edge of the door and swung it open. Nothing. My coat hung undisturbed. Relief washed over me as I slammed the doors shut again, wedging a chair in front of them for good measure. But as I climbed back into bed, the silence deepened. It wasn't just quiet, it felt suffocating. And then I heard it, the unmistakable sound of the chair sliding across the floor. I didn't dare look, but from the corner of my eye, I saw the wardrobe doors yawning open again. The air seemed to shift, and for a moment, I could feel something watching me. I stayed frozen in bed, too terrified to move, praying for dawn to come. When it did, the wardrobe was closed again, my coat folded neatly on the bed. I didn't stay for a second night.